Next up, Fawzi Ibrahim from Trade Unions Against the EU.
It is true that the left didn't cover itself with glory in this campaign, but some of us on the left did fight a very hard campaign in order to leave the EU, and we were successful. The vote is, as everybody said, is very, very significant. It is the most significant event since the end of the Second World War. And I think it's yet to sink in, and it's yet to play out, both here in Britain, in Europe, and globally. And many in the press and the media are trying to second guess, why did people vote this way? Is it this? Is it because they are poor? Is it because they're left out? And so on. The vote was very clear. It is what is said on the paper. It was said on the label. In EU or out, and people said, we want to be out. And the anger by those, the elite, to that decision is quite understandable, because they couldn't understand why, after all these threats, Armageddon, then you're going to lose £3,400, the economy will go down, everybody is going to lose their jobs, and so on and so forth. And yet they didn't take it in, and they voted to leave, in spite of all these threats. And the reason is, of course, this elite is, as Oscar Wilde said, they know the price of everything and the value of nothing, because there isn't a price for sovereignty. What is the price for sovereignty? And that's why the people voted. And they are so imprisoned within this prism of capitalism, they can't see anything else but commodity. And commodities is not everything. Everything doesn't have a price. The vote was not defined by those who led the Leave campaign. Otherwise, how can you explain that the people who led it, one by one, just fell by the wayside, and there was no complete indifference by people? I mean, imagine a leader suddenly disappearing, and if he was a real leader, there would have been an outcry. An outcry there was not, because they didn't define the vote. They happened to be there, and working people, the people of Britain, decided, well, if there are the ones there, we're going to use them as conduit to get what we want. It isn't because they believed what they were saying, but they were the ones who were there. There was no one else, because the Labour Party gave up, and trade unions, in the majority of them, gave up, and the left gave up. There was no one else, and they were there. So it isn't defined by those. But as we move on after the vote, be careful not to chase hairs, because there's a tendency that somebody throws something and everybody follows it and say, well, this is it, and so on and so forth, and forget the main issue. I don't think the question, it's absolutely right to say, invoke Article 50 now, but that is not a strategy. That is not, there is no danger. There is no danger of our vote being overturned. There is no danger of being fudged. This is a most civilized country in the world. You are not going to have anyone overturn a vote like that. So let's not chase hairs, but let's concentrate on what it is leaving the EU. The EU is defined by institutions which we're going to leave, but also by the single market. Now, why is it called single market? I mean, do they call American market single American market? No. The single market is unique in the world because it has within it, in its constitution, the element of free market. Neoliberalism is written in it. And we should say we don't want to be part of the single market. We trade with the single market. And may I just, one thing, the most fundamental one, there are four freedoms: freedom of capital in the single market, freedom of capital, freedom of goods, freedom of services, and the freedom of movement. The freedom of movement is not an add-on. It is part and parcel of neoliberal free market. And some people on the left think that free movement is something, it's a gift, it's a right for the working class. Free movement is not really free, it's an enforced movement of the working class, of workers, because don't tell me that the Polish lad who cleans my windows, when he was 14, and asked at school, what do you want to do in your life? Say, oh, I love to go to England and clean windows in Bellhouse Road in North London, because that's my ambition. No, he was forced to go because there was no work there. Capitalism says it has the right to move no matter what effect it has on families, on society, on communities. Communities come next to profit. So we have to draw a line. The freedom of movement has to stop. That, it must be a red line.
Great.